We want to warn you, the images in this next story may be disturbing for some. Tonight, we are learning more about the conditions inside a dog breeding facility on the western slope, where more than 160 dogs were rescued in June. Earlier this month, we showed you this video National Mill Dog Rescue shared on social media of dogs with so much matting on their fur, they said many could not eat, drink, or defecate.
We saw several dogs with missing limbs or parts of limbs, likely due to kind of the mats strangling and cutting off circulation and then limbs falling off.
Since then, I asked the state for all inspection documents associated with the facility and found 4 cases where dogs at the facility had matted hair. The latest one is perhaps the most egregious, and the state is now admitting to me they should have done more to prevent it. The video is hard to watch. This is what it looked like on June 21st, 2025, as the team and volunteers at National Mill Dog Rescue in Peyton took in more than 160 dogs from what the State Department of Agriculture calls a breeding facility in Delta, Colorado.
It was alarming. It was shocking.
NMDR Director of Operations Sarah Thompson said most dogs were so severely matted they had to have emergency grooming.
Inside the hair were maggots and rodent feces.
How were they surviving?
You got me. You know, it's a miracle that they did. I suspect many more were lost before we got there. Due to the conditions.
Just 3 days before that rescue, state animal welfare inspectors showed up unannounced for a complaint investigation of a dog, cat, and bird breeding facility owned by Barbara Bowman. The inspection report says the inspector found 1 deceased adult dog and 2 deceased puppies in outdoor enclosures with other living dogs. The report says the adult deceased dog was decomposing and had a large number of maggots visible. When asked about the dog, the inspector noted in the report Bowman was, quote, unaware of the deceased dog in the enclosure, and neither of her employees had said anything to her. The inspector also noted there was no water in the enclosure with the dead dog, and the outside temperature at the time of inspection was 92 degrees Fahrenheit. Among the dead dogs were also matted dogs. According to the report, most of the 137 miniature Schnauzer-type dogs were severely matted. The report says they did not have the freedom of movement, could not perform normal bodily functions, and the health and welfare of the animals were severely compromised. The report said Bowman, quote, stated it had been over a year since the dogs had been groomed, and she knew it was bad. The state called it a repeat direct violation, even citing an inspection in March of 2022 where 54 dogs had matted hair and were in need of grooming. These documents show an inspector did follow up in person 42 days later to make sure those dogs had been groomed. But the state did not go back to that property again until this summer, more than 3 years later.
I'll be the first one to admit this one kind of fell through the cracks.
Pet Animal Care and Facilities Act, or PACFA Program Section Chief Nick Fisher told me the state tries to inspect each of its breeding facilities once a year and hits that goal nearly 90% of the time.
From 2022 to now, we should have been out there again.
But 2022 was not the first time Bowman's dogs were found with matted hair. In 2015, an inspector found 10 dogs in outdoor enclosures with matted hair that will require removal before the mats interfere with movement or cleanliness. The only proof the matted hair was removed was this handwritten letter from Bowman saying she had done it. Then in 2020, an inspector found 2 dogs with matted hair that could prevent movement and sight. Again, the only proof that this was corrected was this letter from Bowman saying she had done it. The state admits in both cases, no follow-up inspection was done. It's hard to imagine why you wouldn't go back in person when it appears on the documentation that the matting was impeding their movement, their sight, their cleanliness.
Well, yeah, I mean, to that, I guess, is you're talking about inspections 10 years ago. And I think what we try to do is it's a voluntary compliance program. We have 2,400 facilities. We have to rely on our facilities, for compliance.
The only disciplinary action I could find for her was a $500 fine in 2022 for selling cats and birds and not being licensed to do so. So why would you give her a fine for that, but not severe matting?
I don't have an answer to that question.
So many questions still remain. The 7th Judicial District Attorney's Office will not comment on the current animal cruelty charges since the case is under investigation. And unless she's convicted of those charges, the state cannot revoke her license, but they can suspend it. Why not proceed already with the suspension?
We could, and we probably will. I think we're just finalizing, kind of our investigative part of it. Kind of dovetailing with the Sheriff's Department's investigations.
As of right now, the state says Bowman can still breed dogs. I called a phone number associated with Bowman back on July 16th, but once I started to ask the woman who picked up if she was involved in an animal cruelty investigation, she hung up. Her attorney, Andrew Nolan, sent me a statement last weekend that said, in part, in light of the pending litigation, neither Ms. Bowman nor I will provide comment. Bowman is due in court in September on the 258 misdemeanor animal cruelty charges she is facing. We'll be sure to follow the case and let you know what happens. Earlier this week, we reported some of those dogs are now available for adoption at National Mill Dog Rescue in Peyton. We have a link to the adoption information on our website, KOAA.com.